He was just her bodyguard, silent, loyal, invisible. But the moment she saw what he did in secret, her heart shattered. She fired him on the spot. And what happened after, shook her entire world. Before we uncover this jaw-dropping truth, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Narrative, where every story holds a heartbeat of humanity. In the golden glow of California's elite hills, no one shined brighter than Leana Halbrook. At only 33, she had risen from the ashes of a broken childhood to become one of the youngest self-made millionaires in the world. Fashion, tech, real estate, Leana had touched it all and turned it to gold. But behind her perfect smile, designer heels, and magazine features, she was a fortress. Guarded, cold, and unreachable. And she had every reason to be. 15 years ago, a break-in at her foster home had left her with more than scars. The terror of that night never left her. Since then, she lived with security tighter than a government vault. Multiple guards rotated every 12 hours. But one man had never left her side in 5 years, Nathan Cross. Tall, quiet, former Marine. Nathan never said more than necessary, never smiled too wide, never made her uncomfortable. His silence became her comfort. To Leana, he was more like a shadow than a person, always behind her, always watching, never intruding. Until one chilly autumn morning, everything changed. She was scheduled to speak at a mental health gala in downtown LA, a cause close to her heart. On the way back, her car passed a side street blocked with flashing lights. A building had caught fire. Her driver slowed down. Leana glanced out the window, and that's when it happened. She saw Nathan. Her personal security guard. But he wasn't alone. He was bent over an old woman, wrapping her burnt hands with a scarf. Beside them sat a boy, barefoot, dirty, trembling. Nathan was trying to calm the child down, whispering something she couldn't hear, but the way the boy clung to him, the way Nathan held his hand, it wasn't professional. It was deeply personal. "What is he doing?" Leana murmured, her voice colder than the air. Her driver, confused, said nothing. That night, she reviewed the security schedule. Nathan was off for only 3 hours. He wasn't authorized to be that far from her vicinity. She felt betrayed. Not because he disobeyed orders, but because she realized she knew nothing about the man who guarded her life. The next day, she confronted him. In her sunlit penthouse, Nathan stood straight in his black suit, as unreadable as ever. "I saw you yesterday," she began, her voice sharp. Nathan didn't blink. "Yes, ma'am. Why were you helping strangers in a fire when I pay you to protect me?" He hesitated, just for a second. Then, "I didn't think you'd need me for those 3 hours." "And who were those people?" she demanded. "You were gentle. Not like a security officer. Like they mattered to you." Nathan looked down. A pause stretched long. Then, in a low voice, he replied, "They're my family." Leana's world stopped spinning. "Family?" she repeated, stunned. "You have a family?" He nodded. "That woman is my mother. The boy, my son." Leana stumbled back a step. "You lied to me. You have a child, and you never disclosed it on your profile." "I never lied," Nathan said quietly. "You never asked." That was it. That one sentence shattered everything. For someone who had built her empire on control, Leana felt completely betrayed. Nathan, who had stood by her during panic attacks, who had shielded her from stalkers, media, and madness, had a whole life hidden from her. She fired him on the spot. No hesitation. No explanation. Just 2 words, "You're done." Nathan nodded without protest. He didn't ask for a second chance. He simply placed his security badge on the table, gave her a short bow, and left. That night, the silence in her apartment wasn't peaceful. It was haunting. Leana couldn't sleep. Images kept flashing in her mind, Nathan smiling softly at the little boy, shielding the old woman from Ash with his own coat. How had she never seen this side of him? And why, did it hurt? The next morning, she woke to a strange feeling. Something was off. Her morning staff hadn't arrived. The doorman hadn't called to confirm arrivals. And then she saw it, on her kitchen island, a single white envelope. It wasn't their last night. Inside it was a letter. In perfect handwriting. Miss Halbrook. I respect your decision and wish you continued safety and success. I only ask you to do one thing, check the news tomorrow. Not for me. For the people I failed to protect. N.C. Leana froze. Her fingers trembled as she opened her laptop and searched. What she found brought tears to her eyes. Leana sat frozen, the glow from her laptop screen illuminating her face. The news headline stared back at her like a scream written in pixels. War veterans' secret shelter for burn victims faces eviction, city officials step in. She scrolled. Her breath caught in her chest as images filled the screen, photos of the burnt-out building from the night before. But this wasn't just a random fire. This was something far deeper, something she hadn't expected to see. The building served as an unofficial shelter for burn victims and abuse survivors, the article explained. Funded quietly by an anonymous benefactor, the shelter provided food, clothing, and temporary refuge. The fire started from a faulty power line. But in the aftermath, what shocked first responders wasn't the damage, it was the identity of the man who kept it running, former U.S. Marine, Nathan Cross. The article continued with testimonies from people who had stayed in the shelter. A woman with half her face scarred from domestic violence said she owed her life to Nathan. A teenager who had survived a house fire spoke about how Nathan used to bring him books, sit with him through his nightmares. And then came the final photo, Nathan sitting in the ashes of the building, his arm around a boy, his son, clearly, but his eyes were empty. Not defeated, not angry. Just tired. Leana's hand went to her mouth. She remembered all the times she had screamed at Nathan for being late by 30 seconds. She remembered how she never once asked him what he did on his rare days off. How she had assumed he had no life, no story outside of her. And the letter. That line, for the people I failed to protect. He wasn't talking about her. He was talking about them. For the first time in years, Leana cancelled all her meetings. She sent her assistants away. She pulled her hoodie over her head, got into her car, and drove herself back to the burned shelter. It was barely recognizable. Charred beams stood like broken ribs from a dead body. Police tape fluttered in the wind. She stepped out slowly. No cameras, no designer bags, just her, plain-faced, carrying a single envelope clutched in her hand. Inside the remains of the building, there he was. Nathan. He was kneeling in the rubble, gently salvaging a small photo frame from beneath the debris. A woman and a boy in the picture, his wife and son, probably from before tragedy hit. He didn't hear her approach. Or maybe he did and just didn't flinch. I thought I told you I didn't need protection anymore, Leana said softly. Nathan looked up. His eyes showed surprise, but not resentment. I wasn't protecting you, he said. This time, I was protecting them. A pause. You didn't fail them, she said, stepping closer. You kept this place alive with your own hands. You gave them peace when the world gave them pain. You were doing something I should have supported, not punished. He stood up slowly. You had every right. No, she whispered, voice trembling. I had every fear. I've been terrified of losing control. Of trusting anyone too deeply. I thought I had to buy safety. That the only way to be powerful was to be alone. She took a deep breath. But you taught me something in your silence. You showed me that real strength is in what you do when no one's watching. Nathan was quiet. She handed him the envelope she'd brought. He opened it. Inside was a signed check, for $2 million. This is to rebuild, she said. And not just the shelter. I want to make it official. Legal. Bigger. I'll fund the permits, the staff, everything. If you'll still run it. Nathan's eyes narrowed in disbelief. Why would you do this now? Leana gave a sad smile. Because I finally realized who was really protecting who. You weren't just guarding my body, you were guarding the part of me I locked away years ago. My compassion. Nathan said nothing for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. She didn't shake it, she pulled him into a hug. A soft, uncertain hug between two people who had been strangers in plain sight for too long. The shelter was rebuilt in 6 months. This time, it bore a new name, Phoenix Haven. Its mission, to provide emergency housing, counseling, and recovery support for burn victims, abused families, and survivors of domestic trauma. Nathan took the role of director. Leana became the silent co-founder. But that wasn't the only change. Leana began showing up, not in designer heels, but in jeans and sweaters. She would spend hours reading to the children. She helped paint murals on the new walls. Slowly, gently, she let herself feel again. One afternoon, as she helped unpack a box of donated clothes, a small girl with bandaged arms tugged her sleeve. "Are you a princess?" the girl asked. Leana knelt down. "Not anymore," she said, smiling. "Now I just help people like you become queens." The girl beamed. Nathan watched from across the room, his son holding his hand. He never said much. He never needed to. Because sometimes, the deepest stories are told in silence. She thought money made her powerful, until kindness made her human. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to Kindness Narrative. Let's keep sharing stories that show how hearts change, how wounds heal, and how humanity always finds a way.